what's called good against what's called evil. But I need you to pay attention to who is evil and who is good at this point.
But if he's in there, where's
the old spot? Master, you're alive.
indeed?
Your new battle armor will take things to the next level, mighty. Together we will reunite all Decepticons and once again grind Cybertron on the almighty heel.
No.
What? Why?
Because I now know the true meaning of oppression, and have thus lost my taste for inflicting it.
You clearly been traumatized, Master. A good power down and a stroll around the smelting pit will put you back in touch with your inner warlord.
Enough! Decepticons are no more, and that is final.
Yes, well, we all have plenty to think about, don't we?
Okay. You remember we showed symbols? We'll let our young people go out. All right. I don't want anybody to be distracted. This right here, and you see where the arrow's pointing. From our symbols, what does that look like? Help me out.
That's good. That's
It's the goat.
Satanic symbol is good.
Okay, so the goat represents Satan. So then, if the goat represents Satan, and he is on this character's chest, who does he represent, or who is he for? Oh, okay, what now? You said the good? Okay, but he's got Satan's symbol on. So which is he? I mean, because that's a good point, that's you answered it the way I would like, because I want to be able to correct you. You think that he's on the good side, but he's truly not. Neither one of them are on the good side. And you say, well, how so? It's because both characters, even though this one professes to be good, he still teaches things that are not for God. So Satan actually has both characters teaching you something. You think that the one that is good, really both of them are against. This is why when your parents or individuals say this is not a cartoon that kids should watch, is because at the end of it, he still teaches that you can solve your problems and you don't need Jesus. And that's the problem that you have. See, that is the reason why. So, but because if there was any doubt, it shows you right there which side. If you wait, if you look, everything will show you what side it's on. Who, just like in the Bible verse that Joshua says, choose you this day whom you will serve. As for me and my house, we're going to. And how do we know? Because you begin to see the fruits. Okay? But just in case you was unsure, because again, this is why we do the symbology, so that you can see it. So I don't have to, oh, no, he's a good guy. Is he really a good guy? What is a good guy? Somebody who's going to, what? Teach you about God and lead you toward salvation. We're going to quickly go through these. This individual is Grant Morrison. Grant Morrison has been very influential in the comic book and particularly movies, because movies are now being made off of comic books. And he has a story, his, what's the word? Not biography, but it's like his testimony of how he got into magic and that, and how this has influenced him in his writing of comic books. And he is the go-to guy for when they are wanting to set the storylines for these comic book movies. He's one of the guys that sits behind, because everybody looks at the director and all these different names, but there's the people who sit down and actually write the words that the people say for these characters. He's one of those people. And his example is, he talks about getting a book from his uncle, a book by Aleister Crowley, and Aleister Crowley influenced him And in turn, he takes the belief system that he openly says it, that he takes the belief system he has and incorporates it into the comic books and the movies that he's involved with. Because he believes in it that much. And yeah, he's pretty heavy. And so this is further, and he doesn't hide it. He believes this is the way it should be. And makes fun of Christians and the whole thing, because when you hear his interviews, we couldn't really play a lot of what he says because his language is very, very vile. But I mean, he goes openly and says it. And many, many interviews, I've seen him. This is an old Batman movie. But look at what you have in there. You've got the candlesticks. You have an animal that's roasting here. You barely can see it, but they're on a fire. There's a fire underneath, which represents the, okay. Then you have a individual with the crown of thorns on their head. Okay. You have the smoke over here, which you can kind of off to the right, altar of incense. On the table, there's bread. You can see it if you know, because the screen in the movie it pans across, but this is the best clip we could get with almost encloses everything. So you have the table of showbread. I believe it's here or back in toward the back. There is a like altar which would represent the Ark of the Covenant. I mean, everything from the sanctuary is in this room or this bad guy's lair. Now, is that coincidence? Did they just happen to fall into a biblical set when they made this movie? You know, no, they made this with the intent that they wanted to make a mockery of all those things that are there. So subconsciously, those who are Christian, it confuses the mind, because what's in the mind? Mm-hmm. The window to the soul, the avenue, mm-hmm. It will influence how you feel and think about these things when you try to go and study your word and you can't, you're falling asleep when you're trying to read the word of God, when you're trying to read your Sabbath school lesson or listening to a sermon, you know, because this has in your mind been told that it's not that big a deal, but it's in the movie that you watch. Because they know what they're doing. Satan has told them what to do. Because you remember the clip we saw early on? He's the director of this thing in Hollywood. They just don't happen to put this stuff in there on accident. And then, of course, this is the actual sanctuary and what we know. Again, for young people who are not familiar, that's the altar I was talking about where the sacrifice of the animal goes on. The laver, it was in there too. There was a water basin in there. It's going to take us into the inside. We spoke, young people, in church of the altar of incense, the prayers, the candlesticks, the bread. So we're going to move around the room quickly, or, it's going to show it. But you begin to see each of those pieces of furniture were in that room. And yet this is, the true sanctuary, which we know that the sanctuary is the blueprint, which is the restoration piece that allows us what? For the Day of Atonement, that allows us back. So yet, it's saying you don't need that. In that movie, they're basically saying, you don't need this, there's another way to God. Because that's what Satan is trying to teach the world. There's another way to salvation that's not through God. So, how many of you are familiar with this? So in case you aren't, this is a popular TV show, or it's starting to be popular. It's called The Preachers of LA. And this gentleman here, I don't know all their names. He's a preacher. I'm pointing out all the preachers, and then there are the ladies that are behind them. They call them the first ladies. What I want to highlight is that it's the reality TV show. But what's been ironic about this is several of these preachers are single. So you have the preachers who are single and their interaction with their girlfriend or whoever in the show. But you also have this gentleman here. Let me ask this question. Are you going to talk more on Dietrich Haddon? Okay, I'm going to pause here. This guy who's in the front, keep him in mind and just take a mental picture of him. I'm going to allow Lance to dialogue a lot more about him, because he crosses over into two genres. He's in music and he's also a preacher of a very large church in LA. But I will say this, that among these preachers, by their fruits you shall know them. You will learn in a moment, several of them, particularly one of them, in what they preach and teach goes against the Bible strongly. But we'll let the evidence speak for itself. But this is again something that teaches the world an incorrect picture of those who are supposedly in the church. But not just in the church, but leaders of the church. Sorry.
Is that one over there, Frederick Price?
No, he looks like him.
Looks like
He does. I know what you're saying, but that is not, and I can't think of the gentleman's name. But he's. Oh, ask that question. He is. Bishop Noel Jones is, and he was and is. Watch these next three.
Men know about worlds, about light, about the great dark that boils behind all. From a wave of the Creator's hand, compassion and wisdom spilt into nothingness. But such marvelous gifts often come with hidden prices. From the wondrous fountain of light was born the nameless fire that drives the deep well of midnight, a counter to all life. As creation rolled on, so too did shadow. Unchallenged and untouched, darkness spread, burning and killing, raping land, sky, and flesh. Falling upon countless worlds, it consumed and corrupted all life. Eventually, the shadow fell upon a mundane world of famed love and exaggerated loss. Curiously, this blundering blue planet hosted men not easily purged. Though the great dark believed the song of these men neared its end, it was only then our story could truly begin.
I have walked the earth, always searching for that which will make me high in the mountains of Kairan, deep within Mount Ariat, lies that thing. I shall not have it. My brothers will not. And I shall rule unchallenged.
Now, this last little section, and I'm going to transition to Lance in just a moment. That's the video game section. I'm going to go in reverse order because our minds tend to remember what we most recently seen. On the words on this last one was the shortest clip. It said, Satan waited for what?
1,000 years.
Now, where did you find that? So how did the people who created a video game, did they read the Bible? Somebody did. Somebody's aware, but it said 1,000, because it could have been 2, could have been 1,000,000, but they said 1,000 years. So there's going to be a point in time where Satan does what? Wait 1,000 years, because he's what? Changed. And then it said that he's going to be let go, but it doesn't tell you what's going to happen. But it's a video game that our young people are now, so they can control what happens in it. Okay? Now, going back to the one before that, it told you what that evil leader wanted to do. He wanted to what? Control or rule the world. You saw that at the end. He was on that like ship, And one of his last words was, I'll rule. Okay, and then going back to the first one, which is the most important, it's a little bit longer. It said that creation rolled through the universe. But what followed creation? Darkness.
That's right. He said that.
It said darkness followed creation, and it destroyed those worlds until it came to a blue planet. What's the blue planet? Y'all do where we live on a blue planet. If you look from the Earth from out in space, it's what color? Blue. And then it said that the Earth was not easily subdued. You may have missed that. So what it was, in this video game, it's saying that, so your role as the player, the key player in it, is to save the planet from this evil. So Satan is setting up the idea that mankind can save himself from the evil. So if mankind can save himself from the evil, does he need God?
No.
Do you see what's being taught? So if you don't watch movies, you don't listen to music, but you play video games, does Satan still have a message for you? If you watch movies, but don't play video games and don't listen to music, does he have something for you? If you listen to music, do you see the point? It does not matter what form of entertainment that you're entertained by. He has a message for you. And he has his symbols, because there's a multitude of symbols in there. This is just 3 popular video games. You know, there are many others that have biblical anti-God. So we see that in the entertainment that is there, this message and these symbols are going out to our young people and to any of us. And if we're not guarding that.
John 8:44, you see Kanye West hanging on the cross. So who saves us?
Jesus.
Christ. In order to be saved, we have to first? Believe what?
In Jesus Christ.
In Jesus Christ. Mm-hmm. If you don't know anything else about this, religion 101. In order to be saved, you have to first believe. That's why the Bible says, without faith, it is impossible
Please the Lord
to serve him. Mm-hmm. So you have to first believe that Jesus Christ is Lord. According to Bible prophecy, a one world religion that will offer the promise of peace throughout the world is going to commence prior to Christ's return. The global body will seem like a wonderful thing and very possibly will be a pseudo-Christianity. So you saw that in symbolism when we talked about symbolism. That was a Nero cross, whatever. But Nero, in fact, said that he was totally against Christianity and the whole idea of Christianity. So, is there anybody in here that's not a Seventh-day Adventist? All right. With that being said, if you really want to get into the deep of things, right? When you talk about Jesuits and you talk about the Roman Catholic institution, which we know from prophecy to be what?
Satan's church.
Huh?
Satan's church.
Well, Satan's church, ultimately, yes. But we know it as standing for the beast. Right? The beast. And when we talk about Jesuits, anybody know about Jesuits? All right, there's a few people know about Jesuits. What was the purpose of Jesuit?
That's a group, an order that is within Roman Catholic Church.
It's an order, yeah, okay. You're 100% correct, 110% correct. But there's a group that's within the Roman Catholic Church. But what is their purpose?
Well, their purpose is to go and actually teach.
To teach by any means, you saw that Malcolm X movie, by any means necessary. And if you so happen don't listen, what happened? What does any means? Any means I will make you by force believe what I believe. With that being said, the first time in our history, right, there's never ever happened, the current Pope is what? Is a Jesuit. Right? In order for this to happen, all religions must come together and economical plan. Today, as part of the Satanic scheme, the evangelical Protestant church is being drawn seductively into the Roman Catholic Church, largely through what we call the Jesuit agenda. All right, so all these other churches they consider them the wayward daughters. And so they must bring those wayward daughters back to the fold. Right? This is all prophetic. Correct? Am I making this up, or is it prophetic? All right. The Jesuit agenda, incredibly, while the evidence is obvious to some, the majority of proclaiming Christians are not at all aware of its happening. And so you see Kanye West
trying to stack these millions. I know he the most high, but I am a close high. Mi casa su casa, that's a Costa Nostra. I am a god. That's great. I like stacking millions.
So this was on his latest album cover, Jesus. And then he has on his head, what, a crown of thorns? And an upside down cross. Again, I'll be seeing, every time, I'm the one that put, as God leads me, I put these things together. Right? But when I'm sitting, when you're sitting out there and I see things and I say, I've never noticed that before. And God showed me to put it together. But there's somebody in the background, right, that's dressed in black. It has, again, the devil, the Bible describes the devil as being created perfect in his beauty. Lucifer was created perfect in his beauty, and because he had an eye problem, he became Satan. And so, but what does the world depict Satan as? This red figure. Right, so here in the corner, you have this red with these long fingernails, right? And I've never noticed that before. But he's the background. He's the reason why he's right here, right?
He's on his right side.
And he's on his right side, which is, if you're a military man, the person that has the actual power is to your right. That's why the American flag is to your right, because it's the most powerful country symbol. Oh, yeah.
It's happening.
I think people are gravitating to their spirituality and they're expressing it through their music. Every single person has a spiritual journey, and we have to respect that. I wasn't intimidated at Kanye doing the Jesus because somebody in his shoes can feel like he's being hung on the cross and being wrongfully accused like Jesus. That's the message he was sending. So I wasn't intimidated by that. I wasn't offended by it. A lot of religious, churchy people can be like, "What is he doing? He's mocking God," and all this stuff.
Okay, so what did Dietrich Haddon say? Dietrich Haddon, again, he's a preacher. He's a youth pastor. And he is also...
That's the one that is standing here?
Yeah, that's Dietrich Haddon. He's also he makes music, contemporary Christian music. And so, all right, so, I can show you clips where Kanye West said that he sold his soul to the devil. I can show you a clip like that with him saying it with his own words.
This is a youth pastor, you say? Yes.
Yeah, he's a youth pastor. He's a very popular.
Yeah, but you see his ears and now the way.
Well, we don't even have to go there. We can just talk about what he says, and that leads me to something else. But you can see the two earrings and zeros. But we're not even going to go there. Okay, we're just going to say what he said. He said that there's nothing wrong. Basically, what he said is there's nothing wrong with listening to Kanye West. Mm-hmm. That's what he said. All right, let's just break it down. He said there's nothing wrong with listening. And what did Kanye West say? He said that I know that God is the Most High, but I am close to Him. All right? And not only that, if you look at the imagery on his album cover, who was he saying he's actually worshiping? I mean, he said that he's, again, I'm not picking on any particular person, I'm just using common sense. And then again, some people say that sense ain't common, right? But you said that you have the position of power to your right, which is this figure that you can't see, but he's there because you know he's there because you see his hand. He's dressed in black, which symbolizes Satan, and he has this red hand. And he's saying that he has the power, right? And then, you know, just coincidence that he has a song that says power. And it's the whole imagery and the whole thing like that.